and the scream.
Coast to coast.
Jimmy's on that microphone.
Just like the Lord intended.
Say what you're afraid to say.
Truth that can be amended.
Hey!
Unleashed. Unfiltered. Unfazed. Unafraid. Streamcast. Attack every way.
From
the house of Lakey. The Lakey Towers proclaim.
This is the day the Lord has made. The show starts now in Jesus' name.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Brother Leroy, thank you. You and the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir singing it. Hear Sister Gloria taking a big lead there. Always love to hear the voice of Sister Gloria. She's a good woman. We had to trim the... should I say this? Brother Leroy has been singing this for a long time, right? He's been opening the show for many, many years. And, the green room, Sister Gloria knew how to put away the powdered donuts. Let's just say that. So we I'm going to be in so much trouble for that. No, she did. She knew how to eat the powdered donuts. She liked those little round donuts, the chocolate ones. I like those too. Yeah, but anyway, good to have you. Some of the yes, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I better stop up. They're going to think I'm body shaming. I'm not. I'm just stating a fact that those powdered donuts were really good. Like Delilah likes the powder, but she has to wipe it off her nose. That's different, though. All right, good to have you here on the show. Everybody happy? Glad you're just tuned in here. The 11th day of February, year of our Lord, 2026. I'm pleased, and thrilled I am to be here, and I hope you feel the exact same way. Couple of stories we'll get to. Gregory Wrightstone is going to be with us today from the CO2 Coalition. Also, our old buddy, you don't want to miss the end of the show, Niels Gravilius is going to be here, and we're going to see if old Niels got a crack on the Nancy Guthrie case. There was some breaking news last night. Person detained for questioning on the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. I've told you that when I watch television in the evening, I don't watch entire shows. I fast forward through stuff and turn it up and down, and I just kind of catch the interviews. And last night, every show on the Fox was all about Nancy Guthrie, and it's so funny. They have all these experts that show up, and every expert was saying something else from their expert opinion. So it was a real cluster mess last night. I thought a lot of journalistic irresponsibility because they were just trying to fill time with this story. But anyway, we'll talk more about the Nancy Guthrie case. Niels Gravilius, crack investigator and private investigator, going to be on the program with us as well. There was a story that broke early this morning, and then never mind, it's not really going to happen. The FAA announced that they were going to halt all flights around the El Paso International Airport for 10 days. At first, they didn't say why they were halting the flights. Well, 10 days seemed like a long time. Producer Chad said the same thing. I was like, that seems like a long time, 10 days. And then they said, oh, never mind. About 2 hours later, flights can go. We took out the drone. There was a drone. We'll talk about that as well. That's one of our top stories of the day as well. I think it's this Friday, is it? Is it tomorrow, this Friday sometime? There's going to be a government shutdown. I know all of us in fear and trepidation. It's a dumb move by the Democrats. The media won't call it that. ICE has been funded already. So it was in the big, beautiful bill. Their funding is already set. And so if they try to do this in the Department of Homeland Security, once again, they're going to affect the TSA agents. They're going to affect, I think the Coast Guard is part of the Department of Homeland Security. There's just a couple of other agencies that are going to affect it. It's not going to really do anything for ICE. So we'll keep an eye on that. The GOP is considering another stopgap measure to keep things going while the Democrats do their stupid tantrum about ICE. ICE, baby. How many was it? 900,000 illegals that the border czar or the department, the ICE agency deported under Obama, and Obama gave that ICE director, that ICE guy, a Medal of Honor for deporting 900,000 people. Some of them door to door, some of them in jail cells, depending on who was cooperating with Barry Hussein Obama's administration. That guy got a Medal of Honor. By the way, his name was Tom Homan. And now Tom Homan, the guy that Barry Obama put the medal around his neck, is a Nazi. You know why? Because he works for Trump. Why? Because the American left is filled with mental illness, and it's a Trump derangement syndrome, and it truly is a mental illness. We'll talk more about that, the shutdown of the government forthcoming. Do you eat dinner on the couch? A large number of people do not gather around the dining table. Producer Chad and I had a pre-show discussion about this. Where do you eat your dinner? We'll talk about that. Where do most people eat their dinner? Federal court's given Donald Trump a very big win, and Donald Trump's pissed at the Canadians again. And so he may block a bridge. He may say, it's the bridge to nowhere because there's a roadblock, you damn Canadians, you're not coming across, so we'll get to that as well. Those are all top stories, by the way. Top stories, water cooler conversation. Glad to have you here on the program. All right, I got a question of the day. This has nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie. Has nothing to do with El Paso flights, International Airport. This is just a question that I ask you. The question is, what's in your car? This is our question of the day. If you're new to the program, every day we try to have a question of the day. 90% of the time, it has nothing to do with politics. It's just kind of a fun question where we all get together in the little Lakey groups and we all talk amongst ourselves. There's a new poll that came out that 34% of people who own a car say they would be embarrassed for someone that they know to look inside their car. First question is, would you be embarrassed to do that? Now, I have a friend a couple of weeks ago who needed a ride home. His car was out of service, and so I was we were meeting together for a meeting, and I had to give him a ride a couple of times from a meeting, and it wasn't far from the meeting spot. And I said, let me go get the mail out of the car. And what I meant by that is I sometimes I check the mail, not often, but when I do, it's a lot of junk mail. And so I'm driving, and in my neighborhood, you have to drive down over the river through the woods, and you check this centralized mailbox and open it up, get the mail out, put it in the passenger seat of the car. And then we have a post office box as well. So sometimes I'll route myself down to the post office and I'll get the mail from there. If Delilah's too lazy to check the mail for us at the post office box. So anyway, I got this mail. So sometimes you get in my car, there's mail there. And I try to be clean, but I'm not spotless in my car. Well, 34% say they'd be embarrassed for someone who looks inside your car right now. 33% say they have random clothing in their car. I have no random clothing that I know of. Maybe a jacket in the back seat or something. If it gets a little, 23% say there's trash and food wrappers in their car. And 36% say there are bottles and cans littered around. It's in the cup holder. If I have a can, it's in the cup holder. And 21% say there's an actual food on the floor of their vehicle right now. And they didn't ask, but most of the people must have kids, right? They have all that mess in their car. Over half of car owners feel that the state of their current car's interior is a fair reflection of their personality, for better or worse. So does your car interior and all the stuff you have or don't have, does it reflect your personality? 46% say their car is somewhat clean and organized. 16% say my car's a mess, it's a cluster mess, and 19% say it's constantly shifting between messy and clean. So I have a question for you right now. If someone went to your car, what would be one of the strangest things people found in their car? They asked people on the survey. Again, the question of the day, we'll get to news and politics. On the list of the strangest answers in the survey, somebody said they have a Sammy Sosa bobblehead, uncashed lotto tickets, old Halloween decorations. Number 4 on the list was my favorite. Somebody put up there. They said my husband's fake leg. He left him home stranded. She drove off with his fake leg, I guess. A dog stroller. Here's an interesting one. Number 6 on the list was cassette tapes. Does anybody even have a cassette player in their car anymore? I don't know. False teeth. Somebody said, if you look at my car, you're going to see false teeth. A collection of jams and jellies. A collection of jams and jellies. Fake money. I'm assuming it's not a real counterfeiting operation, but I don't know. And somebody says, if you go to my car right now, you will find a camping shower in my car. So the question of the day is, what is the strangest thing that you will find in your car right now? I want everybody to confess. Messy, clean, neat. What's the strangest thing? I've got a couple of strange things I will confess to. You ready for this? There's strangest thing I will find in my car is well, I don't have the car anymore. Most of you know I've been dealing with health issues for my mother, and she's no longer able to drive. And so I brought her car back to Colorado from Texas, and I was putzing around in it, feeling like a little grandma car, and I'm good with it. And my mother had been using a mobility scooter, one of those scooters you zip around on. And so she would get out of her car, and she had in the back of her little SUV that she had a crane in there, and it would come out and it would drop her mobility scooter. She could hop on it and go zip it. She could walk around, if she was going to be on her feet for a long time, she used a scooter. And so for the longest time, I got rid of that car a couple of weeks ago. I had a crane in my back seat, in the back of the SUV. That was a very strange thing. A crane was there. When I was cleaning out the car, I realized my mother liked to also store in the little console there on your right-hand side of the when you're driving, your gear shift is down there. My mother evidently liked to keep some condiments, namely salt and pepper. found stacks of salt and pepper and a few women's hair products in there, little pens and clips and things. And I don't know. Those are strange things, but the crane in the back was the one that really got it. The crane in the back was quite funny. And yeah, it was funny. So what's the strangest thing in your car? Arloa says, I always have a sweater in the back seat, but I don't think that's unusual. No, Arloa, that's probably pretty normal. I have a jacket in the back seat. So anyway, let me know what the craziest thing you have in your car. Brian Pratt says, good morning from Colorado City, Arizona today, Zion National Park. Well, good morning. I've never been to Zion National Park. I meant to go, but I've never been. But good for you. Anyway, good to have you. Strangest thing you would find in your car. Let us know what that would be, and I'd love to hear from you. The strangest thing you'd find in your car. All right, everybody happy? Good to be here? All right, I'm happy to all be here. All right, let's talk about this Nancy Guthrie thing. Again, Nils Gravilius is going to be on the program with us a little bit later, and you don't want to be missing old Nils Gravilius. He's scheduled to be with us in about 30 minutes from right now. Also, Gregory Wrightstone is scheduled to be with us as well, and we look forward to having him on the program. Hopefully he makes it today. He stood us up last time, but I still love him. We'll make sure we get Gregory Wrightstone on the program. The FAA halted all flights temporarily. They said it was going to be for 10 days, but it's already done. They halted all flights into El Paso and out of El Paso International Airport. And now they said it's going to be for 10 days, which seemed really strange to make a 10-day announcement like that. But then all of a sudden, the FAA has now lifted and walked back the restriction of grounding flights to and from El Paso International Airport. The FAA lifted a flight restriction that had grounded all flights to and from El Paso International on Wednesday after previously warning that the U.S. government may use deadly force against any aircraft in violation. So you're a pilot sitting in your Southwest Airlines flight, and you're American Airlines or Delta. You're heading to El Paso, and you don't go to El Paso. Reroute, because they say they may use deadly force against any aircraft in violation. Well, what happened and what caused the scare? A Trump administration officials saying this morning, the initial lockdown came in response to Mexican cartel drones that breached the U.S. airspace. Those pesky, that narco-terrorist state of Mexico still doesn't have their cartels under control, and it is a narco-terrorist state. Let there be no mistake about it. The FAA announced Wednesday morning that all flights to and from El Paso were grounded, including commercial, cargo, general aviation. The restriction was set to effectively be last night at 11:30 East Mountain Time, and is going to go for 10 days. Mexican cartel drones breached the airspace. The Department of War took action to disable the drones. So I'm not sure if we launched a missile. I'm not sure what we did, but they say they've disabled the drones from Mexico. And they are now, the Department of War and the FAA have determined there is no threat now to commercial travel. And the FAA had cited special security reasons for the earlier closure, but did not elaborate. But evidently, the Mexican drug cartels were breaching the U.S. airspace with their drones. And we'll shut down for 10 days. Oh, never mind. I have a better idea. Let's blow the sons of guns out of the air. And I guess that's what they did. How they did, I don't know. But if the narco-terrorist state of Mexico and the narco-terrorist leader of Mexico will not get their drones and their cartels under control, then let's let the Department of War do it. I'm all for it, my friends. I know we all love our trips to Cabo and Cozumel and Puerto Vallarta, but it is a narco-terrorist state that you're supporting there when you go down to Mexico. Just letting you know that. Travelers, they're still saying, should still contact their airlines to get the most up-to-date flight status information. So if you're flying to El Paso today or tomorrow, because they made the announcement, a lot of airlines had started adjusting schedules and already canceled flights. And so it may take you may have to reroute. But the El Paso airport is open. They were going to shut down the space for 10 days. And then they said, we'll just blow the hell out of these drones that the Mexican cartels, which I think is really an extension of the Mexican government, in my opinion. We'll just blow the heck out of them and disable them. That's all they're saying. They disabled them. And the airport is also near the Fort Bliss Army Post. And he said a 10-day restriction would likely be unprecedented, but it was not even a 10-hour restriction. Forget that. Pete Hegseth said, screw it, bombs away, or however they did. Maybe they did electromagnetic. I don't know what they did, but the cartels drones have, quote, been disabled. If Mexico wants to stay on the good list, not the naughty list, they might want to get control of these cartels and where they're fighting, because the U.S. military knows where those drones are taking off of. And if the Mexican government doesn't want some U.S., let's say, military action on their soil, I'm thinking bombs away on some of these sites where these narco terrorists are based, then the Mexico government ought to get their policia out there and straighten up the old bad hombres. But so far, the Mexican government is worthless, and it has been for many, many years. And thus, it's a narco-terrorist state. A lot of poverty there. A lot of nasty stuff happens there. But the Mexican government, the politicians like money, and the cartels have money, and therefore you kind of get the dirty drama that happens there. But if you were headed to El Paso today for any reason, please check your airlines to make sure that they didn't cancel the flight already, because if they did, they're probably going to have to get you on a rescheduled flight. So just add a little travel advisory for all of the billions of people in the course of a decade that might go to El Paso. Haven't been to El Paso in a long, long time, since I was in my 20s, I think. It was a long time ago, and I was not that you care. You don't care, do you, Delilah? You don't care at all. The GOP is considering a stopgap to avoid Democrats' shutdown of the government. What say you, my friends? Would you say that if the Democrats shut the government down because they're having a tantrum about ICE, would this be something that would benefit the Democrats? The media would spin it that Republicans did it, but I think ultimately ICE is already funded. You're not going to cut that funding of ICE. And so why is it they want to shut the government down? A lot of it's a dog and pony show. That's all this is. Have you noticed now that the news obsession has switched in the last several days? For a week or so, we had to have nonstop Minnesota. And I'm like, you know what? You people live in Minneapolis, St. Paul. You elected these jackwagon leaders. You're the ones that don't cooperate with ICE. You've allowed your state to become a cesspool of corruption up there. And so the story just kind of died. It petered out. The Nancy Guthrie story grabbed the headline. Government shutdown grabs the headline. The media starts spinning you up to get you in a frenzy, get you all agitated, get you all pissed off, angry and nasty feeling, and then you what happens? You blow up the streets, and then the media says, "Oh, never mind, your story's not important." So you're a protester out there about to get get your activity on and get your marches on and say, "I'm going to have a camera and I'm going to be famous and the left's going to love me." And all of a sudden the media says, "We're not going to cover the Minnesota story anymore." A lot of you, I hate to break the news to you, you are puppets, and you're puppets in the pawns in the game of the media and propaganda. And the Minnesota story has just kind of suddenly gone a little bit poofy, hasn't it? That's what they've done. I've done that. Jeff's on the YouTube channel. He says, make a stopgap measure until the midterms. Even the budget we have now, it's only good through, is it October 31st or September 30th? I think it ends in September because the new fiscal year begins in October. So even whatever they do now, more than likely this budget measure is only because the fiscal year of the United States of America is October through September. So that's what you're going to get. So there's going to be another budget battle right before the midterms. Now they'll probably do a stopgap then that would extend it past the midterms so that the new Congress can make their decisions. But there will be the budget comes pretty much to a halt end of September, heading into October, and so Congress is immediately going to have to get back to budgeting as well. Again, fiscal year of the U.S. government is October through September, and so I'm guessing they'll extend it maybe till September stopgap. But even the bills they've already passed and the budget they've already passed is only good through the end of September. So we shall see. I just don't see how it plays well in Peoria when the Democrats do this. I just shutting down the government because they want to throw a tantrum about ICE. And you kind of wonder, here's a thought and speculation, because the media and the propagandists and the Democrats are all in collusion together. You kind of wonder, you kind of inquire and ask yourself the question, this question here is what I ask myself, is the media backing off coverage of ICE because they want everybody to stop thinking about ICE so the Democrats can pass a budget and still fund ICE? And they say they did a little something, nothing really changes, a little reform here and there. In other words, if it's out of sight for these dweebs, if it's out of sight for these puppets and pawns, then it's out of mind. And I wonder now, knowing that there's probably going to be some kind of a deal, perhaps, coming up over the funding of ICE, the Democrats will milk it for The Democrats will milk it for all it's worth as long as they possibly can. But if the media starts backing off, the pressure gets lesser on them, and then the Democrats can, quote, strike a deal while still claiming victory that they did something about it. Obnoxious Scott says mainstream media, that's what MSM means, can kiss my backside. I am burnt out on all this BS. So I don't watch the mainstream media. Even last night, I was watching the story that was being pushed on the Fox. It always drives me crazy that when Laura Ingraham, Jesse Waters, or Sean Hannity, that's the lineup, right? They all start, it comes up with a zip across the screen, breaking news, Fox News alert, and then they just start the regular show. The media is designed, my friends, to keep you in a frenzy, always in a state of panic. Oh my God, there's a Fox News alert. And eventually it becomes like the boy who cries wolf. You don't pay attention to Fox News alert. Remember, growing up, you would actually have the 3 networks, and you would have, ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast for a very special, important bulletin. Now the president of the United States. It was a big deal. But now all day long, you have bells and whistles coming across the screen. Mainstream media, Fox News alert, 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 alert. And there's no alert here. And so last night, there was some breaking news in this Nancy Guthrie case, and this creepy video that was released of this a person, I guess, was going to be the intruder and had a backpack. Everybody saw how he's carrying his gun. And there was just so much speculation. So you had Ingram and you had Waters and then you had Hannity. And all 3 of them have their own law enforcement experts, which I have mine. I have Michael Less. We have Niels Gravilius. We have all these people that kind of keep us on the straight and narrow and educated as to what's happening. Well, they had so many people and they were all contradicting each other. And then Laura would have something, kind of a breaking story. And it's like the other show didn't watch that, didn't know it. It was the most convoluted bit of the media trying to just kind of, this is our story, this is what's going to get us clicks, this is going to get us eyeballs. And here's what you need to remember. Anytime you're watching something in the mainstream media, they want you to watch it, and they're putting it out there and presenting it in a way that's going to keep you watching what in the business we call TSL, time spent listening or time spent viewing. They want to hook you in. They wanted you to sit and watch all 3. There's going to be breaking news. They're about to find Nancy, and they want to build that tension with you. Every one of the hosts said it could be breaking in our very show. Don't go anywhere. And they knew probably wasn't. There's developments there. Someone was brought into detained for questioning and conversation. They're very careful to not say that was a suspect. The SWAT teams were moving out. The reporting that people do on any story, that's what they want you to be thinking about, as opposed to maybe what's very important to you. And so right now, I have to tell you, that for weeks, they wanted you thinking about Minneapolis rioting and ICE. Why? Because they did not want you thinking about Timmy Waltz and the corruption there. They didn't want you thinking about other stories, so they geared you there, spun you up, and got enough people out there protesting, burning stuff down, making Minneapolis the hellhole that it's been for many years and continues to be. And they did that. Now they've moved on their story. And now they want you to think about Nancy Guthrie. An important story. It should be covered, but what's the next thing they will spin up and decide to have you talking about? And this is why you watch shows like this, alternative media, whether you're on Rumble or whether you're on the YouTube or whether you're on X. You watch these shows because we'll give you a couple of other stories and we'll talk about Nancy Guthrie. We'll talk about her disappearance. We'll talk about the creepy video cam that they got. By the way, the video cam, did you see that? You realize it was a Nest camera. Nest is owned by the company Google, right? They're owned by the Googles. And we heard there was no footage, no video, because she did not subscribe, and therefore the camera could maybe do something, but it wouldn't do everything. It wasn't recording. Turns out the U.S. government, when the FBI got involved, went to Google and said, hey, can you do that anyway? In other words, all of these images had been saved into the Ethernet, even though Nancy Guthrie thought that they were not recording. It works out well for Nancy Guthrie, perhaps gives some hot leads for law enforcement. But what it also tells you is that there is no privacy anywhere. When you start putting up those cameras around, when you start doing that, you thought it was private. You thought it was turned off. You thought your digital footprint was there. Listen, it's not that easy. And you just need to know we live in a very surveillance-driven society. And that works out usually for the law abiding. But just letting you know, if you're a person that admires your privacy, anytime there's a camera around, you got to be very, very careful. because you just never know at the time of incrimination or the time of something. Someone could say, let's go back in the archives and just, you thought it was just kind of going to your phone, that security camera. No, they took a copy of it up in the intergoogles, up in the outer space, in the cloud somewhere, and they can do that. That's kind of an interesting part of that Google Nest Cam, is that I don't know what the terms in service are, but since she had not, again, just kind of a privacy issue, works out well. I'm sure the family's glad they got that video. But you think about that, you have a camera up that's no longer quote operational. You haven't done the subscription, therefore you haven't clicked that box with all that text that no one reads about terms of service and privacy. And I don't know if she was in agreement to have that camera working, but they decided to make it work anyway. Again, works out well, but just always know, just because you have not clicked and agreed and subscribed on the terms of service agreement, your camera is still probably picking up some stuff. Just letting you know that, in case you're doing something you don't want the camera to one day be able to, somebody find it somewhere. They'll find it out there for you somewhere. All right. Yeah, watch out for the media, my friends. What's the next news story? Once they solve the Nancy Guthrie thing, and I hope it turns out very well for Miss Nancy Guthrie and Savannah. And there's there's just so much speculation of Fox News last night. I found it embarrassing. I thought some people were getting almost to the place of defamation and slander by naming, well, they could be a suspect. I'm like, you be very, very careful when you start doing that. And I thought it was irresponsible. Nevertheless, it was all about clickbait. It's all about getting you to listen, because the more you listen, the stronger the numbers are, the advertising dollars go up, etc. So I would just pay attention. What they're telling you is big news. Big news is not always the news that is the most effective or the most important to you. All right, back to our question of the day. What are the strangest things that people would find in your car right now? I'm trying to think in my car. I have a different car. I got rid of the crane. Rich says my vehicle is a family farm vehicle right now. Various assortment of winter apparel, 5-gallon buckets, 400 pounds of feed corn, and tree tapping supplies. Well, tree topping supplies. Good for that. Ray says in his car, toilet paper for those long distance incidental issues. Okay, hold on. I get the toilet paper. You might a box of Kleenex. I get the toilet paper. Maybe you got to stop along the way. But the way you said that, Scott, it just made me think, Ray, the way you said that, are you pulling over the side of the road or something? I mean, maybe you're going to like a truck stop that doesn't have any. I don't know. The incidental issues. Well, you got to go to the bathroom. You ever walked into like the restaurant with your own TP? I don't know. I just have images, Ray, of I gotta go, pull it over, open both doors. I'll go between the two. I don't know. I don't get that. All right. Good to have it. What's the strangest thing you would find in your car? Right now, I don't think you find a lot of mail. I tend to I pick up the mail for my house and the businesses and all that stuff. If I pick up the mail, it sits there, and it's mostly junk mail. And I just have to sort through it. And usually when I get out of the car, pull back into the Lakey estate, and I pull back in the garage, and the door closes behind me, I usually have my bag, my backpack, I got stuff with me. And I'm like, I'll come back and get the mail later. And I never come back and get the mail. So sometimes it just happens there. All right. Ray responds to his his issues. Sometimes you have to stop under a bridge or a tree. No, I haven't had to do that. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's a bad possibility, but Ray, I've stop under a bridge. If you're going to have to do that, Ray, you go way out in the field somewhere. Under a bridge I don't know. I'm just, has anybody else had to pull over on the side of the road? That's a secondary question. Ray has sparked it. Is there a secondary question? Has anybody had to pull over in recent memory and do personal business like that? Now, I'll tell you this story. I was driving a couple of years ago. I had when I was with iHeart, they were being real nice to me because I was not signing my contract. And so my son had some away high school football games. And I woke up early in the morning, and I didn't want to have to drive like an hour or two. From Colorado, we had to play a game in Nebraska. We had to go to southern Colorado. And I didn't like to drive, so I talked to the people. I think they're just kissing my butt a little bit. And they made sure I had drivers for those things. I had a car service that picked me up and took me away. Did that. And we were driving through one night in the limo or the big SUV would pick me up at my house to take me to my son's college football games. That was always interesting. When I showed up at the Nebraska high school somewhere, up there, we're playing them. The team's playing them, and I drive up in this big black SUV, gas guzzling. It's got the mini bar in the back. I'm tired. It was the day of my golf tournament. I remember that. It was a long day, and the driver, and so I'm kind of dozing off in the back of the SUV. We're driving 2.5, 3 hours up to some school in Nebraska, and my driver is driving me. And the only thing that woke me up along the way in the middle of Nebraska is that the driver pulled off to the side of the road. I'm like, well, I hope we're not crashing. I kind of wake up. And he peeks back. He says, sir, I'm going to step out for a few moments. And okay, is he going to murder me? Why are we pulled over in the middle of Nebraska? The guy had to go pee-pee. And so I look out, and the guy's peeing in the field out there. I said, well, we're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Nebraska. So I guess maybe that would be inside. Maybe, I don't know. When was the last time? Ray evidently is always prepared with toilet paper. You know, taking as a man doing some business along the side of the road like my driver did, going to Nebraska, not a big deal, right? That's not a big deal at all. But taking a squat would be a little bit different as well. All right, somebody said, I think it was Shar said she has a lot of grocery bags. Do you carry all those paper grocery bags? I don't keep those. I don't ever use them. I have some, but I've just never taken them to the grocery store. Not once have I taken them. Cody has cigar bands. Just random cigar bands? That's strange as well. Jeff says Ray should invest in a bumper dumper. Okay, here we go. Ray's back. Ray's on the YouTube defending his honor. He's climbing the YouTube tower to defend his own honor. He says, going to Colorado from Oregon and going through Wyoming, there's a lot of open space out there. Yeah, but I just don't. There may be a lot of open space, but maybe you got an issue in the tummy there. Now, I could see if you're, and I don't mean to be grotesque here, but if you're in Wyoming and you stop, let's say in Cheyenne, and you have some great Mexican food, perhaps, and it doesn't set well, and you're driving down the barren roads. Emergencies happen, but usually they're emergencies. Okay, good. Enough of that conversation there. Enough of that. And by the way, is it called a bumper dumper? If I search that word, is it going to bring up an Amazon page where you can buy a bumper dumper? I don't know. All right, Donald Trump's not happy. Probably not happy with Mexico and their narco-terrorist state, but he's also not happy with the Canadian Mounties up there, the Canadians. There's been a bridge. Did you know this? There's a bridge that is supposed to be opening between Canada and Michigan. And Donald Trump says, I may not let you open that bridge. President Trump threatened late on Monday to block the opening of a new bridge on the border between Michigan and Canada because of Canada's treatment of the United States and its budding relationship with China. The new bridge is expected to open earlier this year, and it's said to be the only bridge that allows for foot and bike traffic between Detroit, Michigan, and Windsor, Ontario. According to Politico, the bridge will be maintained by Canada. Trump says he would derail the plan for the Gordie Howe International Bridge to open up. In a post on Truth Social, he says Canada has not been treating the United States very fairly, and so we may not let that Gordie Howe International Bridge go. He says, I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given these dang Canadians. I added the word dang Canadians. Also important, Canada treats the United States with fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start the negotiations immediately. Trump also slammed Canada's new friendship with China, who he claimed that China will eat Canada alive. Ontario, and here's some of the demands on the negotiation. Ontario will not even put U.S. spirits, that means beverages, by the way, alcohol, beverages and other alcoholic products on their shelves. They're absolutely prohibited from doing so. And on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers. I don't think so. So Donald Trump standing up for the booze industry and says, if you dang Canadians if you dang Canadians misbehave like this and won't put U.S. alcohol on your shelves, then I'm not going to let the bridge open. And we want to own part of that bridge as well. So the comment, all this comes after Prime Minister Mark Carney announced last month that his country negotiated a new strategic partnership with the communist regime in Beijing. So if you're planning to go from Michigan to Canada on that new bridge, President Trump says it's not going to open until they learn to behave themselves up there. All right, ongoing question. The strangest thing you would find in your car right now. Nobody's had a good response like my husband's fake leg. That was one of the best ones, I think, that was on the survey that was actually done. Okay, on YouTube, now everybody's climbing up to okay, Ray is, if you're just joining us, Ray has a potty problem, evidently. Ray keeps toilet paper in his car for those incidental things that happen on the road. And I'm thinking, how is this possible? I don't understand. And Jeff jumps in on YouTube, says, in Ray's defense, most of the rest areas are closed. Okay, most of the rest areas are closed. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if they're closed or not. I don't do many road trips. So anyway, what's the strangest thing you have in your car? Ray has toilet paper, and now Jeff has suggested he gets what's called a bumper dumper. Not even sure what that means, but yeah. I was going to play a video for you this time. We're going to go to Niels Gravilius here in just a second. I was going to play a video for you of an Olympic athlete that made a huge confession on international television. Unfortunately, the U.S. English-speaking media did not cover it. And so the story is that the guy got on, he just won a medal, and they're interviewing him. And I think he's from, I'll find out exactly where the guy's from. Anybody, if you haven't seen it, it's actually quite a touching, it really is kind of a touching video if you watch the thing, because the guy is truly heartbroken. Let me read the story to you, and I would play the video for you, but the guy breaks down and sobs in tears. He's from Norway. He won a bronze medal. His name is Sturla Holm Lagrade. Probably got that wrong. Sturla Holm Lagrade. What's the accent? I don't know what that is. From Norway, he won a bronze medal in the biathlon, the sport that combines that's cross-country skiing and shooting. But he couldn't enjoy it because he was heartbroken. So they're doing the interview in a foreign language and speaking Norwegian or whatever language they speak. Instead of celebrating, he made a confession to the entire world. He said, quote, "There is something I wanted to share this with who might not be watching today. 6 months ago, I met the love of my life, the most beautiful, kindest person in the world. 3 months ago, I made a big mistake of my life and I was unfaithful. And I told her about it a week ago. And now this has been the worst week of my life. I had the gold medal in life, and I'm sure there are many people who will see things differently, but I only have eyes for her. I had the gold medal in my life, and I lost it. Sport has come second these last few days. Yes, I wish I could share this prize with her." So watch the video. Let me post it. I don't think I have it on my computer here. Let me post it up. It's really kind of it's not English, but the emotion is universal. You can feel the guy's pain, and he's, if he was so distracted this week, he might have won a gold medal. Yeah. Yeah, probably not a good thing, though, to tell your love of your life, your girlfriend, that you're thinking it's going to be it. If you're going to confess your infidelities, which is good to have things out on the table, I'm not saying you shouldn't have, maybe don't do it before you head to the Olympics, or if you told her about it a week ago, maybe you don't tell her about it before you go to the Olympics. I mean, right? Okay, I'm going out of town. By the way, I cheated. That's probably a bad thing. You need to be there for the conversation. And when I first saw the headline, I thought maybe he did a little hookup at Olympic Village. Remember, is it not politically correct? They don't talk about this anymore. Remember several years ago, they used to always tell how many, let's just say, condoms were distributed at the Olympic Village, because evidently Olympians, after they would have pent-up frustrations and desires. And so after their sport, there was a lot of hooking up a lot of hooking up. You remember the stories? It was always 40,000 condoms have been placed, and you don't hear those stories anymore. So when I saw the story about this Olympic athlete admitted his infidelity, I thought I was going to read the story that maybe he had a hookup night at the Olympic Village after his biathlete competition. But no, he was months ago. But he's been. If you call in your girl from the Olympics and say, "Hey, baby, I want to tell you something. I cheated on you. That's probably a bad timing. You got to time that better, sir. Anyway, it's a sad video. I'll put it out there. He's very, very heartbroken, and you don't blame the guy. You don't blame the guy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him in a couple of seconds early. He's waiting patiently. His name is Nils Gravilius. Again, thousands of earballs will hear this show on all the platforms out there. Hello, Rumble. Hello, all the Facebook feeds, the Twitter feeds that we're on, the X feeds, the same thing. All the feeds we're on were Good Morning, and later on the day when some of you are listening to the podcast version on Apple Podcast, Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, all of the podcast platforms, thousands of earballs. Hello, my name is Jimmy, and our good friend Nils Gravilius is in the green room, and he's ready to rock and roll with us. Nils Gravilius, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Lakey. How are you?
I am very well. I'll start with the question of the day. We're talking about the strange things people find in their car. 30-something% of Americans say they'd be embarrassed for anyone to look in their car right now because it's kind of a pigsty. What's the car of Nils Gravilius, a private investigator? Do you have anything strange laying around in your car?
About an AK-47 with a few magazines ready to TCOB on the streets of Los Angeles, Mr. Lakey.
That's what I like.
What do you think of that? Does that warm you up?
I'm like, who's the guy? I have tingles up my leg when Barack Obama speaks. You just said that, and I got a little tingly all over thinking about that.
You're talking about Chrissy Matthews, whom I call Chrissy Tingle.
Yeah, that's him, Chris Matthews. He did that. Jeff just jumped into YouTube, Nils. You'll be happy right there. Jeff just jumped in. I'm still boycotting Bank of America, he says. He's there it is, right there on the screen. He's standing up for you, Nils, boycotting the Bank of America for you. More power to you. All right, Nils, let's get to the bottom of it. A crack investigator like yourself has to be watching this Nancy Guthrie case with eyes wide open and probably doing a lot of armchair quarterbacking, going, bring me in, coach, bring me in. Give me your thoughts. This thing just gets stranger and stranger and stranger and stranger. Is this as strange as I think it is? Give me your thoughts on this Nancy Guthrie disappearance.
Well, it goes back and forth between looking like a straight-up homicide covered up with a fake kidnapping to a bona fide kidnapping. But none of the ransom demands have included proof of life or anything credible enough for anybody to believe that the ransom demands are authentic by the actual kidnapper, if there is a kidnapper. It's my belief that the FBI is withholding more shocking photos than the ones that were shown yesterday for the civilian audience, and also to bias out fake confessions and fake accusations. We need to identify whom the person is. Now, I'm going to say that since they detained, questioned, searched, and then released a DoorDash man last night who lives over in Texas, I'm going to say that the FBI is heavily analyzing cell phone data, cell phones that go in and out of that area, and a DoorDash man would be in and out of that area. In order to carry off a kidnapping of the scale that this apparently is, they probably had to do a lot of reconnaissance. They had to visit the Catalina Hills several times, and that's a fairly isolated area of Tucson, Jimmy. I don't know if you've ever been there, but so instead of having to deal with 10,000 cellular telephone signals in an hour, they're probably dealing with 500 cellular telephone signals in an hour. That narrows it down quite a bit. I still believe that they're going to wrap this case up fairly quickly. I do have what I'm going to call bad news, though, and I hate saying this to a civilian audience, and I don't want the Guthrie family to lose hope, but it doesn't look good for Nancy Guthrie. She's been gone for over 10 days now. We don't know what her condition is. If somebody presents a proof of life video, it would be very easy for an extortionate group to create a fake one using AI now. So there's just lots to go on here. I wish I could see the evidence that the Pima County Sheriff and the Bureau have, but quite necessarily they're playing the cards close to the chest.
One of the interesting things is, let's say it's a pretty straightforward case. Big guy with a mask shows up at the door. kidnapped. Some people speculate what was in the backpack. Why was it so full? If it was a robbery, you'd have an empty backpack, not a full backpack. There was speculation that maybe there was something to blanket or tarp. Just if you, I don't know. I don't know what's in the backpack. But I guess the key is no matter whether it's a straightforward or whether it's something crazy, we got to figure out the motive here. Why would a big guy wearing a mask and so? What's the motivation? Is motive something that you as a private investigator try to figure out to help you solve a case, or is that something you worry about after you kind of got a suspect?
How about all of the above? I mean, motive is important when you're trying to prove a crime in court, but there is no good intent when you show up at an elderly woman's house at 3 o'clock in the morning wearing a ski mask with a pistol. There's nothing good about it. I don't know whether his intent was to rob her and kidnap her, rob her and murder her and disappear her. I don't know what the motive is here. In the past, there was a very prolific kidnapping ring operating in complete secrecy out of San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. They were Chilean nationals, communists trained by the KGB in the 70s, and they fled Pinochet's Chile and just ran a kidnapping for ransom operation in Mexico. It was only in 2021 that Mexico extradited the last of these men from Chile back to Mexico to stand trial. Now, I'm not saying it's the same group or even that it's Mexicans involved, but a successful kidnapping would involve a lot of planning, staging, logistics. You need a safe house. If you take her, say, to Mexico, the cartels will bleed you white or turn you in themselves. I mean, the cartels would get huge credibility in Mexico and the United States for turning Nancy Guthrie back over to American authorities. They would never permit something like that to occur in Mexico, meaning a civilian woman uninvolved in cartel activity. Now, something else that is not obvious to most Americans is we have kidnappings for ransom all the time in this nation because we have allowed a nation to exist within this nation, meaning cartel activity. The cartel boys kidnap each other's daughters, sons, wives, husbands, etc., all the time to establish dominance, to control territory, to punish malefactors, things like that. We just don't hear about it because nobody calls the police and says, you know, our cocaine safe house got raided by a neighboring cartel group and they took my son hostage and I think they sent his head back in a bowling ball bag. You know, nobody dials 911 for that.
Wow. If you're listening to the podcast later, it's Neil Scrivilia's famed private investigator. Got a book coming out this year called The Last Lawman. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Niels, I was watching, I thought some of the speculation on some of the news channels last night was a little bit outrageous. They're talking about, what about the son-in-law? I'm like, I don't think it's helpful. I think it's clickbait. I think it's tabloid type journalism. Just as you say, for the civilian audience, it does nothing. And if I'm somebody that's been named by some of these panelists, I'm like, oh, there's a lawsuit. I'm suing your ass for saying that. But they went crazy apoplectic last night that for the first time in 10 days, the SWAT vehicles, a mobile command center, a bomb squad, all left the Pima County Sheriff Department and to an undisclosed location. They were headed south and evidently ended up about 5 to 10 miles north of the Mexican border. And the media was reporting this and acting as if it was some breaking news. And I'm guessing it was. What went through your mind when you heard this SWAT, mobile command, and a bomb squad had headed somewhere and they ended up just a handful of miles north of the border? What went through your mind? What do you think might have been happening?
Well, the same thing. I mean, they probably have electronic forensic evidence taking them to that area in order to serve a search warrant. They've served several search warrants in this case already, including 2 on Annie Guthrie's house. The speculation about Annie Guthrie and her husband is natural. It's natural for people to think that there might be something involved. Agents were seen departing their house the other day over the weekend with an evidence bag. Who knows what that means? We can speculate about it a bit. I've speculated about it a little bit. Up until the images released from the Ring camera that were recovered forensically, I was fairly certain this was just a homicide with her body removed to cover up the crime and delay discovery. But now that we have this, it could still be that, or it could be a bona fide kidnapping. What So play out the story in your mind. You're part of the kidnapping ring. You kidnap an elderly woman thinking, maybe I'll extort her family, get some money, that sort of thing. And then it turns into an incredible hot potato when you realize that you have put a stick in a hornet's nest and you have the entire FBI, the entire U.S. Marshal Service, the Pima County Sheriff, and bums like me chasing after you. What do you do? And then what happens when the woman that you've kidnapped, God forbid, dies of a heart attack or something while she's in your custody? Do you continue with your kidnapping, or do you just abandon her where you can abandon her and run for your life? I mean, there are so many different scenarios that can play out here, Jimmy, and I don't want to inflame the Guthrie family unnecessarily. It's a horrifying thing. They have to be absolutely anguished over what they're experiencing right now.
Do you think that those ransom notes were legitimate? Are they connected? Because I heard some speculation last night, and it made sense to me. The guy didn't seem really equipped to show up there. If he had cased the house, he would have known there was a Nest camera. He could have had some tape and just immediately taped it up. Instead, he's fumbling around, getting plants up and putting flowers over it. It didn't seem like a real professional kidnapper, murderer. Didn't seem equipped for the moment. And then you have a very sophisticated ransom note. Would that say this guy's the muscle and somebody else is the brains, or does that say they're not connected at all? Give me your thoughts.
I don't think they're connected at all, Jimmy. I think the ransom demands that have come over the transom so far are opportunistic cockroaches, like the man arrested in Los Angeles last week, the man who has priors for defrauding the state government during the COVID fiasco in the state, a former county employee sitting around in his filthy boxer shorts, smoking dope and trying to create crafty ways to steal money from people.
Yeah. In your speculation, I have this feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, that things may not have a happy ending. I hope I'm wrong on that. But give me your thoughts. How, you think this would be solved very quickly? Once it is solved, again, we hope the fate of Nancy Guthrie is positive, but who do you think will find us at the bottom of this? Is this going to be just some guy that randomly picked a house? Are we going to find some stalker to Savannah Guthrie? What kind of criminal do you think in the end will end up taking this to be taken down by this?
Whether it's well planned and well executed, or just an incredibly lucky skell who made a hot score, we are dealing with psychopaths, Jimmy, men without conscience. And something else I'm going to point out is I have a couple of clients whose family members have been kidnapped in the past, and they never get over it, even when they recover that family member. They pay a ransom, they get the family member back, and they're looking over their shoulder for the rest of their life, and they worry about every single person in their family, whether they're vulnerable, invulnerable, what might happen. When there's a loud knock on the door, it's some idiot Amazon guy or something banging on the door too hard. They're grabbing for a gun, or they're ducking for cover or something like that. People talk in smug tones about closure. Let me tell you something, Jimmy. When you've been victimized like this, there is no closure. It just loses its power to hurt you so quickly, so badly, but it's still always there.
Yeah. As you're watching this happening, I know you don't like to second guess law enforcement and how they act in the moment, but some people say it's 10 days later. They were FBI was in the neighborhood again yesterday, trying to get more video footage, talking to the neighbors again. Is this unusual 10 days later that they still seem to be, trying to get video camera footage, or was that unusual? It seems like you've been that neighborhood several times, and yet you're going door to door one more time. Did they not get all the information they could up front?
You never get everything that you could on your first pass, your second pass, your third pass. Look at the JonBenet Ramsey case. They're still working that. What are we, 30 years down the road from JonBenet? So the JonBenet Ramsey case bears comparison. That was treated like a kidnapping, until what, 18 hours later or 11 hours later, when Jean Benet's remains were found in the basement. Okay, and the Boulder police had already corrupted and contaminated the crime scene so much that they can never bring an effective prosecution against their main suspect.
Yeah. Do you have a I've heard the word, this is an inside job or this is a cartel thing. Is there any kind of a gut tingly feeling that Nils Gravilius gets whenever he looks at this case as speculation? You think it's going to end quickly? It won't go on much longer, but is there any kind of a gut instinct you have? Is this random? Was this planned? Is this inside? Is this outside? What are your thoughts?
Somebody did some planning here. I don't think that it's entirely random. The guy coming up and using weeds to try to cover up the camera looks like he wasn't that well organized on the one hand, but bringing a backpack with presumably whatever logistic equipment he's going to need to bring somebody out of the house, that's planning. Now, it is not the cartels, in my opinion. I'm going to tell you why. To kidnap a civilian like this, particularly an old lady, is considered unmanly by the Mexican mafia, the cartels, that sort of thing. This would be a death sentence. If I'm running a cartel crew and I do a job like this on a civilian, like Nancy Guthrie, that's a death sentence for me. My own crime partners are going to kill me for bringing discredit and law enforcement attention crushing down on them.
Nils Gravilius, I appreciate it. We'll talk about your book here in just a second. But first of all, I heard that all the workers, pool workers, cleaners, landscapers, they were swabbing them for DNA yesterday, I guess, trying to get a bank of DNA of who might have had access. So is that, I guess, standard protocol?
That would be standard operating procedure. They're also going to be going through, of course, cellular triangulation. They're going to be looking for every camera thing that they can. They're going to do it multiple times because sometimes people discover, like the Ring cameras at her house were dead. They were unsubscribed. Well, the FBI reached out to a forensicist who's actually a man in my networking group to go through and cull and get some of the data that hadn't been overwritten and come up with the images that were presented yesterday. This is very standard. I want to say hello to my fan, Stacy. Hello, Stacy. Behave yourself, young lady. So this is very standard in an investigation like this. I wouldn't second guess the Bureau, the Pima County Sheriff at this point. It's too soon in the process for that. People are anxious. Let's trust them to do a bit of work, and if it falls apart, they can always call me in later.
It also kind of reminded me on a kind of an interesting note that you subscribe to those Nest cameras, you pay your fee, you subscribe, and you click the terms of service, and you're gonna allow them to record. I'm guessing she had not clicked the terms of service. Somebody that's a privacy person would say, "Oh my God, those things are recording anyway." Yes, they are.
Your phone's recording you, your Ring camera's recording you, your dog's collar is recording you. We live in a ubiquitous surveillance society. It's better just to hide in plain sight, okay?
Yeah. The Last Lawman is the name of your book. People can pre-order it now. It is the tales of all things Nils Gravilius. Your website, graviliuspi.com. If you'd like him to solve your crime, he's willing to do that. Nils Gravilius, talk about The Last Lawman. Oh, by the way, Stacy says, love him. See that? Right? Love him.
Well, she's a very nice young lady, Stacy is. Now, The Last Lawman is my 30-year memoir of running and gunning on the streets of Los Angeles and other places, other foreign countries sometimes. I was a Pinkerton man, and I was in your United States Army. I've worked and lived and operated all over the world, Jimmy. I have to bounce right now. I've got something urgent cooking. I want everybody in your neck of the woods to behave, every eyeball to behave.
Got it. Nils Gravilius, appreciate you. Got to go. I took him overtime. He's got another interview to jump on. That's what he's got. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you all being here. Nils Gravilius thinks it's going to be over soon in this situation, but hopefully it is. We really hope it is, and hopefully it ends well for Nancy Guthrie. All right, I got some stories I did not get to. We talked about the El Paso the El Paso airport closure, and it was supposed to be 10 days. It ended up being about 10 hours or less as the U.S. took care of the threat by Mexican drug drones, said they disabled them. They will not fly. Tomorrow, I want to get more into the story of the NFL and Bad Bunny. There's more translations coming out. And I know we have a guest tomorrow, I think that is a Spanish speaker. And I'm going to ask him what was really said by Bad Bunny on the stage, because was Bad Bunny saying what we think he was saying, or did he change the lyric up? And is the NFL, and it was pretty foul stuff. If you listen to the show yesterday, it's pretty nasty. I couldn't even say it, and I was, but you got the idea. It's pretty nasty. Also, there's a bill going through Congress I want you to pay attention to. Again, not being talked about. It's called the SAVE Act, and this would basically strengthen election integrity in America. And it would, on federal elections, it would say, no, we're not going to do the mail-in ballots unless you have a good excuse. We'll go back to the old absentee version. You can request an absentee ballot. We're not just going to mail on a federal election. You have polling places. It would also require ID and proof of citizenship. So it's a really good bill, and I think it's a bill that you could probably get bipartisan support, but the media is going to try to spin it as this is racist, bigoted, homophobic, because they can't debate you in the arena of ideals, and so they get in there and they just start name calling. So we'll talk more about that election integrity bill that's moving through the hallowed halls of Congress now. And Senator Barrasso up in Wyoming, we know we have listeners up there and viewers up there. He says what Democrats want by objecting to this is they want sanctuary status at polling places for illegals to be free to vote and no threat of repercussion. And when you put it like that, why are they so afraid of any talk about having ICE near a polling place? Well, if you're voting illegally, you're committing another crime besides being here illegally, and doggone it, your ass should be removed from our country. So anyway, a lot of stories on that. That's, again, the story. They're talking about this, and you should be paying attention to that, and that's what I think you ought to be paying attention to. I've also got the story. You may hear about this, and I think producer Chad and I were hanging out the other evening in social time. He was at the Lakey, the Lakey estate, and we were in the cigar palace there at the Lakey estate, and there was a girl that flashed on the screen, and she's American. She goes to Stanford, and but she has some Chinese heritage, and she's actually, her name is Eileen Gu, and she's representing China in the Olympics. And Miss Gu, for all these leftists out there, has never, ever, ever spoken against any human rights abuses by China. We'll talk about the human rights abuses of ICE and all the stuff they accuse ICE of. But anyway, interesting, American-born team skier for China is actually an American-born citizen, and she's taking a lot of heat now that she's getting more known for not just representing China, all the benefits of America, and representing China at the Olympics, but hasn't ever said anything about the poor people of China who suffer under the communist Chinese regime and the slave labor that happens there. So we'll talk more about that as well tomorrow. I do want to remind you, we're almost halfway. Oh, by the way, I meant to put a photo up, and I couldn't find the right photo. Today, my dear mother, I was supposed to be in Dallas, Fort Worth this week, but I had some things come up. And last week I was there. Remember, I took 2 or 3 days off to go care for some issues and take care of my mother, who's in declining health, let's say. Today is her 82nd birthday. And happy birthday, Miss Linda. It's kind of strange. It's a weird situation when you get to that age, and a call doesn't really work that well. So anyway, happy birthday, Mom, if you're listening out there. And everybody say happy birthday to your mama as well, because one day, yeah, it's not happening anymore. Anyway, February the 11th. Yep, 82 years of age. She was either. I told her last week that her birthday and coming up, and told her how old she's going to be, and she says, that seems impossible. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds really old to me as well. So anyway, God bless you, my friends. Let's do the meme roulette. But before I do the stolen meme section of the show, can we, if we can? You ready? Sherry Cree. I want to make that very dramatic. Hello, Sherry Cree. Sherry Cree, realtor extraordinaire. She posted some photos. Follow her on Facebook. She's up there. Sherry Cree, realtor. You'll find her. She is posting some photos of her trip up into the northern part of Colorado, northeast, showing some homes and doing some work up there in real estate. Eaton and Greeley, and I think Wellington. She was up that way. Listen, anywhere that I-25 corridor, Sherry Cree is going to be that person. And again, you need to interview your realtors. Don't just go with the person that you've always gone with. Just because of your brother, your sister, your Sunday school teacher doesn't mean they're the best realtor. And that's honest to goodness. 70% of realtors in America last year did absolutely zero transactions. Why would you want that person to work for you? In other words, if 70% did zero, that means you only have 30% of active realtors that are kind of experienced in the real estate game, keeping fresh on their skill and their ability. And just what else you need to know? You ready? You need to know that you want somebody that can get the job done, not just because they're your friend. 70% of realtors did not do a deal last year and across America. So you've got to have the ones that are active, are doing it, and they're practicing their craft and their skill and their talent. Sherry's one of those people. Go to the website, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. If you're even thinking about moving, if you're considering it, maybe this is not even your year. I've told you she's had people that she talks to and says, you might want to wait. And they call her a year later and they're like, hey, and she thought she didn't get hired. No, they took her advice and called her a year later and said, now is a better time. We want to sell now. Listen, homeswithsherry.com. She'll be with us on the program on Friday. But if you are up in Wellington, if you're up in Windsor, if you're down in Denver, that I-25 corridor, Boulder, hello, we just talked about the Boulder Police Department and JonBenet Ramsey. If you're in Broomfield, she can help you there as well. Thornton, hello, Thornton. Longmont, Arvada, she'd love to help you. Park Meadows, all of those places. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Go to her website and go to the website, check it out, and make a phone call. You owe it to yourself. Again, if you play real estate right, it can create generational wealth. If you play it wrong, you're going to leave a lot of money on the table, or you're going to spend more money than you need to. You got to make the right decision. It's a big decision, and make sure you have the right advice and the right strategy moving forward. And it's homeswithsherry.com. And again, don't leave money on the table. Go into it that if this could be a life-changing move, it could change my life for my family, generational wealth, if I play this right. So don't take it lightly, and don't just let anybody stick a sign in your yard or start looking for homes for you. Stop it. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, time for the stolen meme section of the show. See this? Cheap prop. Cheap show. Ready? Arloa, thank you. Happy birthday to your dear mother. 82 years of age. A lot of you wishing, happy birthday to your mom. Thank you. I appreciate it. I wish I was there this week, but I couldn't be there this week, but I was there last week. Part of that for happy birthday. And that's also the strange thing when you end up in a memory care situation is what do? You like, I send flowers, but they don't like that. They come in a big vase, and they're afraid somebody will be a fall or somebody trip on it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Weird. It's just very strange. All right. I was going to show you I threw her 80th birthday party, invited everybody in the world to it. And I threw the party and went to a restaurant she wanted to go to. I was going to show you the photos. I'll pull them up tomorrow, and I'll show you the photo. Yeah, it was fun. 80th. Yeah, she drove herself there. That's how quickly the decline happens. She drove herself there and walked in and had a little party and tried to dance a little jig. And that was an expensive party, but it was fun. Lots of fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Stolen meme section of the show. If you're new to the program, what we do is we go around the globe. Producer Chad has a crack staff at the production facilities that he uses, and they're scouring the internet. Is that how they scour the internet? I don't know. Scours. I've never done that. I feel weird now. They scour the internet and they steal memes from people, and it just illustrates absurdity and proves a point. So, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, let us do it together. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. On Groundhog Day, Kamala saw her shadow. Yeah, 4 more years of not being president. Everybody say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, Brother Leroy. Thank you, Jesus. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Trump's in the Epstein files. Oh, for calling the cops on the Epstein. You ever see that story? It's not been covered by the media. Again, they don't want you to know this. Trump was the actual original whistleblower on Epstein. It's in the files. There's transcribed conversations that are coming out when he called the police in Florida and said, I hope you guys are on this guy. Yeah. Left can't handle it, can they? Yeah, they can't handle it. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Student ICE protesters are being called out on the internet for proudly displaying misspelled signs. They obviously haven't been getting a good education. You can see the misspelled sign. We are skipping, should be 2 P's there, you bimbo, our lessons to teach you one. We're skipping our lessons to teach you one. Yeah, they must go to a Leering Center somewhere. They go to a Leering Center. Yeah. Bet her daddy's proud. I bet her mama's proud too. Doubt it. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Oh, it's the Babylon Bee. Anybody ever experience this? Wife refuses to return the stolen land she took from her husband's side of the bed. Yeah, you always miss the blankets. Fortunately, I don't like a lot of blankets. Light sleeper. I like to be cold. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There we go. Speaking of sleeping, I wish I was a kid again so everyone would be so proud of me taking a long nap. Such a good boy. I've sometimes gone to the restroom somewhere. Yeah, excuse me, I go to the restroom, you go do your business, come out of the restaurant. And I wish people would just go, oh, good potty, good potty. Nobody does that anymore. Good nap. You did so good. No. You get grown up, you get judged for taking a long nap in the middle of the day at your desk, and nobody tells you good potty. It's really heartbreaking. Growing up sucks. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There we have it. Stop stealing the intellectual property, and so we shall. That will wrap up the program for the day, but I do want to remind you about Rivers Promise, our charity organization. Would love to hear from you this week. Our food shortage, food focus, I guess was it called, is still an ongoing thing. Tomorrow, I will go through a little bit more on some of the details of the food items that we have. I also got a stack of letters via email that the kids have written to their sponsors. So we got to sort through them, and they've been interpreted. And the next probably 5 to 7 days, a lot of you are going to get letters from your sponsored kids if you sponsored a kid. And sometimes we'll find a mistake and say, nope, that's the English barrier sometimes crosses. So it takes us a while to sort through and make sure we have accurate information, the right child, the right sponsors, and everything. But we're working a new system. We have a new guy over there named Ildefonse. Hello, Ildefonse. He's working on our team in Rwanda now. We've expanded, and he's been translating letters for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So anyway, stand by for that, but we'll talk more about the charity. If you'd like to make a donation, we'd love to have you. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. And again, all sorts of amounts matter. $9. Food is a problem. Every kid gets protein. One of the great sources of protein is an egg. And every class in our school goes through at least $9 of eggs a day. You say, well, that's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad, but you count every day and you count multiple classrooms, it adds up. So $9 feeds 30 eggs, and we usually hard boil them, and that's just a great source of protein. The kids love it because it's a real delicacy. Think of that, living in a world where getting a simple hard-boiled egg is a big deal. And that's the world we live in. This is luxury food items for them. And you can help. $14, $15, $16, $17 buys fruits for the entire class. So they get their fruit. They also get some vegetables. Bags of beans, 220-pound bags of beans and rice. We go through those like crazy. And again, these are kids that would not eat without our help. Literally, they would not eat. Malnourishment was so bad when we got there. And we still have a few issues, but we're powering through those, and you guys are helping us do that. So if you could, my friends, make that donation today, riverspromise.org, and you can check out the work of Rivers Promise. We'll try to show some photos and videos here tomorrow on the charity. I haven't checked in from Africa, so I'll do that with you here pretty soon, and we'll converse one with another. But I appreciate your donations today. If you're listening later in the day, that goes for you too. You're not off the hook just because you're not watching the show live. You're listening to the podcast version. We want you to go and donate today. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Make sure you make that donation today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap this program up. We got lots to do today, and you probably need to get back to work as well. So Stacy says her husband was watching, and he just starts laughing. Laughing at probably at me. Anyway, happy birthday to my mom. So I'm just scrolling through and see all the comments there. So anyway, I'd love to have you tuned in tomorrow morning. We'll converse again. Until we meet again, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Get here on time. Hear all the great songs of Brother Leroy show. I think we're done, right? Memes. I got it all. I'm distracted. I'm reading all the comments. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. God bless America. Everybody go download the app, subscribe to us on the podcast platform, wherever, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you listen to fine podcasts. Go find us, look up Lakey Unleashed, and that way when you're driving down the highway, driving to the grocery store, driving to wherever you're driving, like Ray, driving to go find a field to go poop in, wherever you're driving, all you got to do is listen to it on the podcast apps, and it's called Lakey Unleashed, and you can listen to it all again. God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Jaime Lagos is how Ice knows me. But I got papers. Leave me alone. See you tomorrow. God bless.